Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a crucial shortcut, really, into the future of cybersecurity operations.
Huh.
We're going to focus squarely on Open XDR, that's extended detection and response. And our mission, well, it's to analyze the source material that describes this emerging security paradigm. We really want to know how Open XDR is helping out managed service providers, MSPs.
Right, especially with those two huge operational nightmares they face. It's just way too many tools, that tool sprawl, and then drowning in alerts, alert fatigue.
Oh, yeah. If you're in security, you've seen it. You walk into a client site, and it's just a pile of different tools. EDR over here, SIEM over there, firewalls, cloud stuff, identity management.
All working separately in their own little silos. We hear about clients with, 15-plus security tools, sometimes more.
Exactly. And that's just, well, it's not sustainable, is it?
No way. Those silos mean investigations take forever. Your mean time to respond goes through the roof. And you just can't see the whole picture when an attack hits multiple areas.
Which they always do.
Which they always do. From email to an endpoint, then moving sideways across the network.
So this is where Open XDR comes in as the synthesizer.
That's a good way to put it. It's designed to pull in all the data from the security tools you already have, your EDR, network gear, identity platforms, cloud logs, into one correlated intelligent view.
Okay, so it's not about ripping and replacing everything.
At all. It's about making the tools you've invested in finally, talk to each other effectively in a common language.
So the goal here for you listening is really efficiency. We're looking for a way to speed up threat detection, get consolidated reporting, and just frankly make life easier for SOC analysts. Less manual work.
Right. Less chasing ghosts.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. We hear SIEM, EDR, XDR all the time. How is Open XDR fundamentally different from, say, SIEM or EDR on their own?
Yeah, that's key. The big thing to grasp is that Open XDR isn't trying to be your SIEM or your EDR. It's more like a correlation and automation layer on top. It enhances them. It unifies them.
Enhances how?
Well, think about their roles. EDR is fantastic, indispensable even, but it's focused just on the endpoint, right? What's happening on that specific machine.
Deep visibility there, yeah.
Exactly. And SIEM, well, it's great for collecting logs, for compliance checks, but, and this is a big but, it often takes a ton of analyst effort to write the rules, maintain them.
The care and feeding of the SOC.
You got it. And the storage costs for all that raw log data, it can be crippling, especially for MSPs managing lots of clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of those costs, sometimes you end up only feeding it some logs, not everything, and that creates blind spots right there.
Precisely. So OpenXDR changes that equation. It's built to connect everything: endpoint data, network traffic, cloud logs, identity events, email security alerts, and then apply smart analytics across all of it. It's a context engine.
A context engine. I like that.
Yeah. So EDR tells you what happened on the laptop. OpenXDR connects that to the weird network traffic seen just before, the failed cloud login attempt from a strange location, and maybe an identity change that happened hours earlier, all related.
That makes sense. That correlation across different domains is the missing piece in a lot of setups.
Totally. If you're only looking at endpoints, you miss what's happening in the cloud or in SaaS apps like Microsoft 365. You miss that lateral movement that might only show up on network sensors.
Attackers use multiple stages, so the defense needs that multi-stage view too.
Absolutely. And the sources lay out this kind of 7-step workflow that shows its breadth. Starts with just pulling in data from potentially hundreds of sources.
Okay.
Then, and this is super important, normalize, turning all those different log formats into one standard schema. You have to do that for correlation to work.
Right, standardizing the language.
Exactly. Then the platform uses AI to correlate those normalized events, figure out the connections, then detect those complex multi-stage attacks that one tool alone would miss.
And after detection.
Then it helps the analyst investigate, triggers the right respond actions, maybe automated, maybe manual, and logs everything for reporting, transparency. But that normalization step, that's the heavy lifting the platform does for you.
That workflow sounds pretty robust. But okay, let's get to the results. The proof, right? We need numbers. What measurable improvements are folks actually seeing when they adopt this kind of unified Open XDR approach?
Yeah, the metrics are pretty compelling, especially when you compare it directly to just using a SIEM or trying to manually correlate siloed tools. Sources are showing around a 60% faster mean time to detect threats. 60%.
60% faster detections.
Yeah.
Okay, that's significant.
And maybe even more critical, about a 70% faster mean time to respond Getting that response time down is crucial.
Absolutely. Minutes matter in an active incident.
They really do.
But there's one number here that really stands out and honestly sounds almost too good to be true. We're seeing claims of up to 8 times better detection accuracy compared to legacy systems.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? An 8x improvement.
Yeah, it sounds like a wild claim, but it's not really magic. It comes down to that context and correlation again. Think about it. A legacy tool, like a SIEM, might see 3 failed login attempts and fire 3 separate low-priority alerts.
Right, just WAW events.
Exactly. An Open XDR platform takes those same failed logins, normalizes the data, sees they came from an IP address it hasn't seen before, connects it to an EDR alert that popped up on that user's machine moments earlier, maybe links it to suspicious cloud activity.
Ah, I see. It connects all those weak signals.
Right, and it correlates all of that into one high-confidence incident. So that 8x improvement isn't about catching 8 times more stuff, it's about the accuracy. It's about surfacing the real, verified threats by understanding the whole story, the whole attack chain, based on data from multiple places.
Okay, that makes more sense. It's filtering out the noise and connecting the dots to show you the actual picture, not just loose puzzle pieces.
Precisely.
Now, implementation, this sounds great, but for an MSP, telling a client they need to rip out everything they already own, that's usually a non-starter.
Totally. Forget about it.
So the sources talk a lot about integrating without forcing that rip and replace, this bring your own stack or buy, wash, sort idea. How realistic is that? Does it actually protect those prior investments?
It has to be realistic, otherwise it doesn't work for service providers. And yeah, the major Open XDR platforms are built around this BioOS model. They emphasize having hundreds of native integrations ready to go.
Hundreds, okay.
Yeah, so you can plug in pretty much whatever security tools your clients are already using.
Like what kinds of tools are we talking about?
All the core stuff, endpoint security, Sentinel-Alone, CrowdStrike, firewalls and network gear, Fortinet, WatchGuard, Palo Alto. Identity and SaaS are huge. So Microsoft 365, Okta, Google Workspace Logs.
Cloud platforms too?
Definitely. AWS CloudTrail, Azure Logs.
Yeah.
And it also pulls in things like network detection and response, NDR sensor data, threat intelligence feeds like VirusTotal or Abuse IPDB. It aims to ingest anything that provides security value.
That list of 400 plus connectors sounds impressive. But let's be critical for a second.
Yeah.
You mentioned that normalization step being key. If I'm an MSP and I have, say, 15 different clients, each with slightly different tool sets, isn't normalizing all that data into the Open XDR platform a massive upfront job? It sounds like a potential integration nightmare.
That's a really fair point, and it's definitely work. But here's the difference. With a traditional SIEM, you are often responsible for writing and constantly maintaining the parsers to normalize that data. It's ongoing, painful work.
Right, constant tuning.
With OpenXDR, the platform vendor has already built and maintains many of those parsers for common tools. The connector for Sentinel-Alone knows how to handle its telemetry. The connector for Fortinet knows its log format. The value prop is that the platform takes on a lot of that normalization burden.
So the lift shifts.
Yeah, it shifts. The complexity moves from that endless manual rule writing and parser maintenance you hate with SIEM towards the initial setup and configuration of those data ingestion pipelines, making sure the connectors are deployed correctly, pulling the right data, maybe some initial tuning.
Okay.
And this is actually where managed providers, maybe using partners like Enhance.io that the sources mentioned, come in. They specialize in that deployment and tuning, getting those complex feeds like Microsoft 365 audit logs or Okta data flowing and normalized correctly from day one.
So it's an upfront investment in setup that pays off later by saving analysts time.
Exactly. You invest in getting the data flowing cleanly, and then the platform's automation and correlation take over, drastically reducing the day-to-day analyst workload compared to managing a SIEM and multiple point tools separately.
Okay, that clarification helps. It frames it more as an optimization project than a replacement headache.
Yeah.
Let's pivot then to the operational benefits for the analysts themselves. We have to talk about the biggest soul crusher in the SOC, alert fatigue.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who's been woken up at 3 a.m. for what turns out to be a false positive, they know the pain. It leads to burnout. Analysts start missing real threats because they're overwhelmed. Sometimes they just tune out the noise. It's bad.
So how does Open XDR tackle that specific problem?
It attacks it directly through that correlation engine we discussed. Instead of your EDR sending 50 alerts, your firewall sending 100, your cloud log sending 200, all flooding the analyst queue as raw, low-confidence events.
Yeah, the fire hose.
Right. The Open XDR platform's AI looks at all that incoming data, correlates related events across those different tools, and groups them together. It essentially builds a case file automatically. It presents the analyst with a smaller number of high-confidence incidents, not thousands of raw alerts.
And the result? We saw a stat suggesting, what, a 90% reduction in alert noise.
Yeah.
What does that actually feel like for an analyst on the ground?
It feels like getting your life back. Seriously, though, it means you shift from spending, say, 80% of your day just chasing down alerts, figuring out if they're real, closing false positives,
Triage.
to spending 80% of your time actually investigating the validated incidents the platform surfaces. Maybe doing proactive threat hunting with the correlated data. That 90% noise reduction is what enables that reported 70% faster incident triage. You're looking at maybe 10 solid leads a day instead of sifting through 1,000 raw alerts. It completely changes the job.
From filterer to investigator.
Exactly.
Okay, beyond just cutting noise, there's also the angle of tool consolidation and cost savings. You mentioned a few acronyms earlier, ITDR, UEBA, SER. Can you quickly define those so people see the value of getting them in one platform?
Sure. So Open XDR often bundles capabilities that you used to have to buy as separate point solutions, which gets expensive fast. You've got ITDR, that's identity threat detection and response. Think monitoring for compromised accounts, unusual logins, privilege escalation attempts, really important with cloud and SaaS.
Okay, identity focus.
Then UEBA user and entity behavior analytics. This looks for deviations from normal patterns, like why is this user suddenly accessing systems they never touch or downloading huge amounts of data at 2 a.m. It baselines normal and flags anomalies.
Got it. Behavioral analysis.
And SO, security orchestration, automation, and response. This is about automating parts of the response process. Maybe automatically isolating an infected machine, blocking a malicious IP address, creating tickets, speeding things up.
Right, the automation piece.
So by integrating features that cover ITDR, UEBA, the log management aspects of SIEM, and the automation of SOAR, an MSP can potentially avoid paying separate license fees for 4 or 5 different tools and the headache of integrating them. Open XDR aims to be that unifying platform.
And you're saying it's often the only single platform that really checks all those boxes effectively. Endpoint visibility, log management, automation, that crucial multi-vector correlation, threat hunting tools, and multi-tenancy.
Yeah, that's the argument. Individual tools are great at their specific thing, but getting that combined power, especially the cross-tool correlation and the multi-tenant management needed by MSPs, that's where Open XDR positions itself.
Okay, let's drill down on multi-tenancy. That's absolutely non-negotiable for any service provider. How does Open XDR specifically cater to an MSP who might be managing, I don't know, dozens or even hundreds of different customers?
It has to be architected for it from the start. It's not something you can easily bolt on later. This means the platform needs to provide that central dashboard, the single pane of glass everyone talks about, where the MSP's team can manage all their clients.
But securely, right? Client data needs to be separate.
Absolutely critical. Strict data isolation between tenants is paramount. Each client's data needs to be logically, and sometimes physically, separated. And the MSP needs granular control setting unique detection rules, response policies, reporting configurations for each specific client tenant.
And what about reporting? Compliance is huge for clients.
Yeah, another key benefit. Because the platform has that unified view of data across the client's environment, it can automate a lot of the reporting needed for compliance frameworks. Think NIST, CSF, ISO 27001, SOC2. Generating those reports becomes much simpler, which helps the MSP demonstrate value and build trust with their clients through that transparency.
That transparency builds trust, definitely. Okay, this all leads towards scalability. For an MSP wanting to offer serious security services, like a full 24/7 managed detection and response, an MDR service, traditionally, that meant hiring a huge, expensive, round-the-clock team of analysts.
Which is incredibly hard to do and very costly. Finding and retaining skilled security analysts is a major challenge for everyone.
Right, that's been the massive barrier to entry for many smaller MSPs wanting to offer advanced security.
Exactly. But the sources suggest that Open XDR platforms, particularly when combined with partnerships like the Enhanced.io example mentioned, can change this dynamic. The MSP can essentially leverage the platform and a managed service delivery partner.
How does that work?
The partner often manages the Open XDR platform itself, handles the 24/7 monitoring, the initial triage, the alert investigation, maybe even performs some response actions, all on behalf of the MSP. The MSP gets the benefit of a fully staffed, expert SOC team operating the technology without having to build it all themselves from scratch.
So they bypass the need to hire maybe 10, 15 analysts immediately.
Precisely. It significantly lowers that operational cost barrier. It removes the massive staffing headache, and it lets the MSP start offering and selling sophisticated MDR services much faster, generating that high-value security revenue. They can focus more on the client relationship, strategy, and higher-level advisory, while the partner handles the demanding 24/7 operational backend on the platform.
Okay, that model makes a lot of sense for scaling security services. So let's try to wrap this deep dive up. Let's summarize the transformation we've been analyzing here.
Sounds good.
Open XDR emerges as this unifying layer. Its main job is solving that tool sprawl problem by integrating the security tools clients already own.
Right, protecting existing investments.
It promises to dramatically slash alert noise. We saw figures up to 90%, letting analysts focus on real threats.
Huge efficiency gain there.
And it delivers measurable improvements in speed and accuracy. Things like up to 8x better detection accuracy compared to legacy approaches, and getting response times down by potentially 70%.
Yeah, those metrics really highlight the impact of correlation and context.
So what does this all really mean then for the bigger picture of the security industry?
Well, I think it represents a fundamental shift in how we approach security operations. It moves the focus away from just buying more point solutions and struggling with the complexity.
Right, the tool collection habit.
And shifts it towards investing in platforms that provide that centralized context, correlation, and automation. It makes advanced SOC capabilities accessible at a lower cost to deliver, especially for MSPs. It really changes the economics of providing managed security services effectively.
Okay, that's a great summary. And just to leave our listeners with something to chew on, here's a final provocative thought. Given that this technology, Open XDR, combined with these service delivery partnerships, allows MSPs to essentially rent the sophisticated 24/7 SOC infrastructure they couldn't previously afford to build themselves. How does that lowering of the barrier to entry change the competitive landscape? Who gets to effectively compete in that high-end managed security market now? Does delivering advanced MDR become maybe more commoditized, shifting the real competition purely onto service quality, client relationships, and strategic advice?
That's a fascinating question to ponder. The game definitely feels like it's changing.
Indeed it does. Well, thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We hope this analysis gave you the critical insights you need to understand this really powerful operational shift happening with Open XDR.